Welcome to the Vibrantly You podcast. We're your hosts, Megan Martineau.
And Caitlin Cipriano. In this podcast, we talk about fitness and nutrition on your motherhood journey. Whether you are trying to conceive, pregnant, postpartum, or beyond, you are welcome here.
Nothing is off limits, and our goal is to support you in this important season of life so that you can feel vibrantly you. As a reminder, this information is not medical advice. Please see the show notes for more details.
Welcome back to the Vibrantly You podcast. Today we are in our Coffee Chats series, and we are going to be discussing the mental load of motherhood, things that have come up for us that we have experienced now, and just a honest, real, raw conversation on this topic.
Yeah, the mental load in motherhood is definitely something that I feel like has been getting a lot of attention recently for good reason. Because it is something that honestly I feel like is not talked about enough before you have kids. Like it's one of those things that it's like once you become a mom and you are caring for your child or children that you like start to realize how heavy it can be, but it's like not really something that people warn you about.
No, I mean, I don't think that was on my radar at all when starting to have kids. And I don't even feel like, it certainly was not anything that was discussed from conversations with my mom or maybe friends that already had kids. It wasn't something that I was seeing on social media even at that point. And so that would have been around 2018, 2019. I do think that we're starting to see a lot more of that. And I would imagine that that is now coming from millennial mom lived experience.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like millennials as a whole too, like we're just better about talking about things. Being
Yes.
like, let's talk about how much this sucks. Whereas like older generations were like, if something was uncomfortable or like um not necessarily shameful, but maybe like something that indicated that maybe you were failing, it was swept under the rug, not talked about. And it's interesting too when you were talking about like, oh, like your mom didn't, that never came up in conversation with your mom. I mean, same. But it's funny now that when I'm talking to my mom about things or like, things like specifically around the mental load of just like feeling like I'm always on and just like responsible for everything. And like I'm always thinking about all like 50 tabs open in my brain at all times, right?
Hmm.
And she'll like like talk about it, like relating to it, like when we were kids. And I'm like, so it's funny, like they did experience it. They just didn't talk about it.
Yeah. No, and I think that's the biggest difference is yeah, I think my mom has described certain things, right? Of um putting up a wall or just not maybe going there in the moment. And that is 100% the complete opposite of what I want to do and how I want to relate to things. I want to have open and honest dialogue, especially around motherhood related topics, because I think otherwise, right, you are walking around with a million tabs open at once, and there's no place to go with it. And so you just sort of shove it down and it becomes hard to manage. And if you're someone that, maybe already deals with mental health, adding that on top of things becomes really challenging to navigate.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because yes, dealing with other mental health things is something that is more challenging once you become a mom too. I've seen a lot of stuff too about like, how many of us millennials are being diagnosed with like ADHD right now. You have postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, general anxiety and depression. All of these things that come to light in like our 30s or when we're moms. And I've seen psychologists talking about this. It's because like you get to a point where the mental load is so heavy that you can't cope the way that you used to. And so it really all is intertwined of like all of like I keep saying mental load, but again, just like all of these things that you're responsible for puts a strain on your like mental capacity for existing.
I also think there's something to be said for, you know, things that maybe you even subconsciously were not aware of being like problems or issues all get like amplified once you become pregnant. And I'm not a neurologist or psychologist, but there has to be something there of like those like physiological changes that you like experience during pregnancy and then after delivery that impact these types of responses because does seem like, high, like you said, just like all of these people that are now moms and they're then having, again, a variety of mental health con concerns.
Well, and I'm sure like hormones play a role as well because obviously if you have multiple kids, you're going through that like pregnancy, that drastic postpartum drop, trying to regulate postpartum. Oh, now we're back to pregnancy. Maybe you experience a pregnancy loss. That's a drastic drop. Okay, now you're pregnant again. Like your hormones are just like on this constant roller coaster. And then for many of us, once we're done having children, we're jumping straight into perimenopause, which is also something that is not talked about enough, which we are actually very excited. We're going to have someone talking to us about perimenopause and menopause related to fitness and exercise. So that'll be a great conversation to tune into. But um, it's just a lot, like for our bodies, like physiologically too, when you think about all that hormonal stuff. And many people aren't even done with menopause until like, what, like mid 50s?
Yeah, I think it can, it ranges, right? There's a reason why it's sort of like grouped into that. Like there's the peri, there's menopause, there's post
Yeah.
menopause. Um, I also think when we talk about the mental load of a motherhood, it would be, you know, ignorant to discuss the piece of like the village and the support because I think that so many um, women like in our society nowadays like really lack that. Maybe they do have like a set of parents or there's a sibling or, close friend nearby. But it's certainly, at least in my personal experience, not as robust from that traditional sense of like your whole like family is within 5 minutes of you, and you also maybe have like I had like like sort of like token grandparents. They weren't really like my grandma or anything, but basically were my grandma. Like I had a couple of those growing up. Um, but like I know you're in a similar situation, so it's like there's not that. There's not that at all.
Especially like, because, we're talking about millennials because we are millennials. Like, a lot of our parents are still not even retired yet because many people can't retire until later now. Just like, we're in the United States, just like in the society that we're in, like, people are having to work longer. And so then, like, us millennials, we have kids, but like our parents, even if they're nearby, a lot of times they're still working and they
Yeah.
can't even help with things. Um, or yeah, like you said, everyone's kind of spread out. Like even if you have family nearby, they're often not like right down the road. Maybe they're a half an hour drive, a 45-minute drive. They do have their own things going on. Like when I was a kid, my grandparents lived in the same neighborhood, two
Yeah,
houses
same.
down. Yeah. And I always think of how helpful that must have been for my parents because we were there all the time. We would get off the bus, we would go to their house, they would get us snacks, they would help us with our homework. We'd hang out there till my parents got home. So, like, that helped them with the cost of like after school care because they didn't have to pay for it. Anytime that they needed something or like needed us to have supervision, my grandparents were right there. Like, how convenient is that? That's a dream. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but even for a lot of people that do have family nearby, like it's not that convenient. And again, like my grandparents weren't working, like they were just always around. And they loved hanging out with us, and we loved hanging out with them. And even like my other set of grandparents live further away, like 2 hours-ish away. But every summer we'd go to their house for a whole week. Like my parents would just drop us off. We loved it. It was like our favorite week of the summer to go to grandma and grandpa's house. And like they
Gosh, I
lived on a
bet.
farm. Like we loved to be like just running around the farm. Like it was so great. And I feel like people don't really do that much anymore either because again, like your parents are working. Like grandparents just aren't available for that. And so that makes it really tricky. And even if you have like siblings, like aunts and uncles, like they're all working, like who's available to help you? You have to pay people. And that's also not accessible for a lot of people. And so here we are now where everyone's like super hyper individualized and like our nuclear families, no help, high burnout, high mental load. Like it's definitely a societal problem, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say like a very systemic issue, right? It's like very multifaceted. And I think it's I love these conversations because it's just a recognition of like how these things need to crumble, need to crumble, you know, on it. Like honestly, like no, this like type of thing can't continue. Like it's not good for anybody.
Yeah. Well, and even just like a lot of people move around now too, So it's like even for jobs, like a lot of people have to relocate for jobs a lot. And so then you're dumped into a new state, a new town or city, and you don't know anybody. And then you have to like build up your community. And, but like people are moving all the time. All the time. I mean, I just think about like I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. Like this area is rapidly growing. We've lived here almost 10 years. And just thinking about how it was when we first moved here versus now and the like influx of people and just like again, the rapid growth. But like in our neighborhood, we've lived here for 6 years. And even just thinking about the rapid turnover in our neighborhood, and again, it's like when people are moving in and out all of the time, I mean, everyone has their reasons for why they're moving, right? Like people are getting divorced, people are getting new jobs, like whatever it is. But then it's harder to also build your like very hyper local community because people are just, I don't feel like that happened a lot when we were kids. Like I remember the
No.
neighborhood I grew up in, it was the same people that lived in the neighborhood the entire time I was growing up. Maybe like one person moved.
Yeah, same. Totally. You know, like you had said, like very similar childhood experience. I mean, I know we're both from Vermont, but we were in different regions of the state. But yeah, my aunt and uncle lived right next door to us. And then my grandparents were like literally like 3, 4 minutes down the road, like easy walk to their house. And like we knew like everybody, like everybody on the road. And yeah, I think like yeah, like maybe like there was 1 or 2 people that moved over the course of, 16, 17 years. So crazy
Yeah.
difference in things for sure.
Yeah. And I do think that just again adds to that mental load of just managing everything. Like, so obviously we've been talking about the village aspect and just like help with childcare, but then there's also like a big part that plays into the mental load too is like running a household because this is something that often falls on the woman, the mom, and I think that stems from, 1950s housewives, right? Where like the mom did not go to work. She was at home. Her place was taking care of the house and the kids. And that like role or the idea of that role has like continued to stay with us, even though that's not what the majority of moms are doing anymore. Most households are dual income, both people working. And yet, the big responsibility of maintaining the home is still on the mom.
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. I think, there's obviously situations where the other, the dad or the other partner has more equal, help in household things, but I still think um, there is still that like prominent like expectation of the mom to still like hold all of those like threads of responsibilities together. So even if your like partner is physically like the default, like go get the groceries or help with the laundry type of partner, which is great, like still helpful, like you probably as the mom are still like keeping track of everyone's schedules and appointments and like did this thing end up on the grocery list kind of thing. And so it's again like those are all the tabs that are open that are running the household and everything.
Well, and even you said if they like, there's some partners that help, right? And like that word is so key of like, they're
Yeah.
helping because it's my job, like they're helping me, like rather than it being like, this is assigned to you.
Yeah.
It's just like, when you look at like the words that we use, it's really interesting. Or even like, it usually is on the mom or the woman to delegate those tasks to the partner too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like you said, sometimes there are
Totally.
people that are like, I'm taking this on, I'm taking initiative, like this is my thing. And we love that. But
Yeah.
a lot of times it is like, oh, like I mentally can't deal with this anymore. So this is going to be your job now, and you're taking full ownership of that. And so it's like there is still that little like delegation piece that we still have to deal with, which is just so interesting. Because it's
Yeah.
also like, when we're little kids, like as girls, like women, moms, it's like we're not necessarily taught directly, like when you grow up, this is going to be your job, right? Or like if we're talking about like a heterosexual relationship, right? Little boys are not taught like you don't have to have any responsibilities around the house. It's like we're not explicitly taught any of these things. And like you and I both
Right.
have a son and a daughter. And I think about this a lot when I look at my children too, because I'm like, when they are this little, like there is no differentiation between like this is a boy thing, this is a girl thing. And maybe that's just because I'm really intentional about that, but I'm like it is so interesting to just like think about how this evolves as we grow older, but like when you look at them as little kids, it's non-existent. It's really weird.
No, I agree. And I think that also like makes me think about too, this is like completely not in this like same realm, but like just of like differences of what boys and girls are like drawn to, like activity wise and things. Like my son very much like a I love cars and trucks, like toddler type of kid. And then like with my daughter, like the like she's obsessed with like jewelry right now. I don't even hardly wear jewelry. So like where does that come from? Because I'm not like, putting on bracelets and earrings all the time, but she's like loves to like walk around wearing, bracelets and clip-on earrings and stuff. So like she didn't pick that up from me from
It
me or
is,
anything.
yeah, it is really funny. Even like my daughter right now, deep in a Minnie Mouse obsession. Minnie Mouse and Pink. And like I know you love Disney, but like I I would not identify as a Disney adult. I don't have any Disney things at all in my house. Um, and my husband and I were actually talking about this the other day. We're like, how did she get so obsessed with Minnie? Like, how did that happen? And loves pink. And I'm like, my favorite color is blue. I love pink, but like, I don't even have that much pink stuff. How did she hone in on pink? Although my son's favorite color is also pink. So I think pink is just a great color. But I'm like,
Right. Yeah. Where
interesting.
did that come
Like,
from?
right. And like you said, like he loves cars, like has always gravitated towards cars. Um, and that wasn't something that we were like forcing on him either. And I'm like, it is so interesting.
Yeah.
But I will say that he loves doing things around the house. He loves being useful.
Mhm.
He loves, again, I'm going to
Yeah.
use the word help, but he does like helping with
Yeah.
things. He'll ask, how can I help? What job can I have? So it's like
Hmm.
little kids are very drawn to like wanting to be part of the household and like
Yes.
doing these tasks. It's not a like, oh, this is mom's job. But I do think, have you ever heard of the book? I think it's like Hunt, Gather, Parenting. So I'll look it up, but I'll put it in the show notes. But I read this book when he was little, and I should read it again, honestly, but it examines even different cultures and how
Oh,
different
cool.
cultures get their young children involved in household tasks. And it talks about how, especially in Western cultures like the United States, like we will kind of shun little children from household tasks. You know, they want to help us wash the dishes or they want to help like sweep or, you know, like things that you're like, you could help me, but like you're going to do it wrong. And it's going to make this take way longer, you know, or you're going to make a bigger mess rather
Literally
than,
what was going through my head when you're saying
yeah.
those things.
Like when they help me wash the dishes, I'm like, I'm gonna have to rewash all of these, you know, and it's just gonna like make this task double as long. But when we shun them from those things and say, no, 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 this is my job, you go play, they are starting to learn, like, this is not my responsibility. This is not my job. I don't have a place in the household and like helping the household function.
Mm.
And so then when they do get to be like in middle school or like teenagers and you're like, clean your room, I want you to wash the dishes, they're like, why would I do that? You know? So. It is
Yeah.
interesting. Like if you get them involved earlier on, then they might want to be involved as they get older, and then that can carry over into adulthood and then help with mental load.
Yeah. No, I think it's good points. And I think, there's obviously that place for including them and integrating certain tasks. But yeah, man, the dishes one is like, no, I just want to get it done.
Or it turns into like playing, you know, because they love to play with water.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is getting out of control.
No, I think you should share that in the show notes. That sounds like a really useful resource.
Yeah, I definitely will. I'll find it. It was a good book. And I've seen other people talking about it recently too. Um, but it's just like a really good parenting book and helpful as you're raising children if you want them to be more involved in household stuff and take more initiative and things like that, which I do think, you know, is very relevant to what we're talking about with and mental load as adults. So,
Absolutely.
helping kids learn early on that it's like everyone's responsibility to help and not just one person's.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, that I think is a good stopping point. I think we covered some really good um, topics within the greater theme. And so if you share this with a friend today, we would be so grateful. Please leave a comment if there's other topics you want us to cover within our coffee chats. And otherwise, we will see you back here next week.